Okay, well, let's get started. Thank you all for joining. Up there's Jack watching a meeting here. Good morning, Jack. Jack, I made you a I'm not sure if you're on your computer. I made you a co-host just in case something happens to me. Okay, so let me share my screen. Thank you all for coming. Based on, I should be somewhat familiar because it's very similar to what happened with ARL field day for the COVID-19 things, but I do want to go over a couple things because a lot of people may not be used to setting up winter field day themselves, because we were able to do winter field day last year. So at the fire station. So this setup setup's the thing that a lot of people who just come out to operate or help set up antennas or do other things may not necessarily be familiar with what we had to do to run it on the computer. And there's a couple of notable things that are different with excuse me, winter field day as far as when you're operating from home and different things with power. So just to first check, you guys can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. So let me share my screen. And if you have any questions, just stop me. Let's see. I want to share this one. All right. All right. So first place, good place to start is at winterfieldday.com on your computer. And winterfieldday.com has the rules for winter field day. And again, for those that may not know, winter field day is a separate. It's not an ARL activity. It's a separate group that does winter field day. So don't go to the ARL's website looking for information on winter field day. Other than they do mention that it's coming up in their news, but that's about it. So if you go to the rules, you will see if I can zoom this here. You will see that they helpfully said COVID-19 rule changes are in red. Right here at the top, and make sure people realize this, FT8 and FT4 are not acceptable modes in winter field day. So big difference from summer field day, that they do accept, you can use FT8 in summer field day. You cannot use FT8 and FT4 in winter field day. So if you're operating digitally, typically it's going to be PSK 31. And last year we made quite a few contacts on PSK 31. Just to make sure we make a contact for the multiplier, which is kind of a weird way to do multipliers, but I'll scroll through the years and look through a couple rule changes. But I also want to spend a few moments on your category. We operate from home. Excuse me, last year, and what we've normally done when we do winter field day is we operate from outdoor, our class is outdoor right here. So, and it says like a campground, park pavilion, canopy, picnic table, tent, pop-up camper, those are all outside. So that's why we are outdoor. The trick is, if you want to set up in your yard, for example, and you would like to operate outdoor, you have to be at least 30, according to the rules, you have to be at least 30 feet away from your normal station location. So use that accordingly on being 30 feet away. If you want to set up in your yard, if you have enough room to do that, you can set up outside. Just don't use your existing antennas. So use new antennas. You can't set up in the edge of your property and use your existing tower or dipoles on your tower. That wouldn't work. So if you set up new antennas, you can certainly set up the outdoor at home in your yard. That works too. Of course, if you're a portable operator and you have a station, you can go to a park or something like that. That's completely fine. You could do that any year, and you would be considered outdoor. Indoor is where it's not your normal station, but you are inside in a heated. The trick is heated from, you got to remember winter field day, they do this all over the country, but heated or cooled depending upon your local weather, as it says, weather protected, but a fully enclosed structure, like an EOC or a club shack or something like that. That's considered to be indoor. And that, again, that wouldn't be normal operating your normal equipment. But most people, if you're operating at home, you're not going to be considered. I guess you wouldn't really be. I guess you could be in your. I guess if you're 30 feet away and you're, depending on where your shack and your garage are, if you're sitting in your garage, I guess you could swing that. But most people at home are going to be just that, and in the home category. Right here, which is your home station, your normal station, or, oh, I'm sorry, I retract that, what I said about the garage. It says or inside another structure attached to your home, i.e. a garage or a sunroom, and that would be home as well. So that's probably a splitting a hair there. If you weren't using your normal antennas, I would think that if you were away, that would be indoor. But if you're in that situation, you might need to get a little clarification on that. But anyway, generally people who are operating, who decide, you're using your normal station, that's going to be home. So, and your category would be on CW or PSK, it would be 1H or 1I or 1O or whatever. That's the way we do the categories. Your exchange is still the combination of your class, just like in summer field day, it's your class, the number of stations, transmitters, and your class. And in this case, it would be, in my case this year, it would be 1H, and then West Central Florida for your section. So we use sections, just like in field day, we use sections. And expect other stations to give you sections as well. And certainly, as with any of these, you should read the rules. That's predominantly the differences. There are some odd things in the way they do the scoring in winter field day, and if you look at some of the ridiculously high scores you see, it has to do with the way they do their multipliers. If you operate at least one contact on one band and one band mode, if you will, that's a multiplier. So you have people who go out there and say, okay, I'm going to make sure I make a PSK contact on every band, a HF contact or a phone contact, and a CW contact on every band. And then if you add those up, that's 15. That's 15 multipliers. So, and then they'll go into, well, we'll do a PSK contact on 6 meters, 2 meters, and we'll do one of those on 440. Now you're into 9 more multipliers. So you end up with 26 multipliers. I'm sorry, I added that wrong, 24 multipliers. So that's why you get these ridiculous scores. We tend to look at contact. Like last year, for example, we did by far, probably by 200 more phone contacts than anybody else in the nation, or anybody else who participated. We did the high. I think we were like second in the number of overall contacts for the contest, or for the event, excuse me. I'll say that's the contest part. The scorekeeping is the contest part, right? So you can still, now in bonus points, you can still do your satellite So if you are in a satellite or you want to, decide that, hey, this would be a good time to get 1,500 bonus points, go make a satellite contact, you can do that. If you're outdoors, you immediately get 1,500 points. So obviously that's not going to be available to the home stations. If you're no commercial power is used for your radios. Winter Field Day does make the distinction that your logging computer can use any power you want. Their logic is in a real event, you wouldn't be worrying about your logging computer. So that's sort of superfluous to the operating event. We're just using it for logging. So that can be on a regular computer or regular power, excuse me. And but if you're running a generator, if you decide to run a generator all the time from home, more power to you. But that's going to be 1,500 bonus points. But if you just use standard shore power, you're at you will not get that 1,500 points. So, and they have a few examples here about your different scenarios, which you can add up. But basically, if you're a home station, you're pretty much your only opportunity for a bonus point is going to be again, if you want to run on generator power, that's the whole time, not just one contact. Or if you want to run, do a satellite contact, that's going to be your opportunity for bonus points. Now, this is where we get in. I'll mention something here in a second about this DI, but this is where we get into the file that gets produced, and this is actually you're going to have to add these things to the cab file. And we'll talk about this in a bit. The next part here is about the logging. You're going to have to add the club name. Typically, when you do a Cabrillo file, when you do your contest software, when you do your summary package, it'll ask you to generate it and put in the club name. The club name needs to be a common name. So just like in Summer Field Day, because of COVID-19, they let us aggregate our scores underneath one club. The trick is, though, the name has to be identical. If you have, and you also don't want to abbreviate the first part, so it needs to be unique. That's the trick. For example, if somebody decided to just submit the club name of UARC or LARC. Well, LARC could be Livonia, could be Lincoln, could be all these things. So there's lots of clubs that have LARC as the name. So don't abbreviate that. Same thing with Spark. There's several Spark clubs. So what I did last year is, or excuse me, what I did in Summer Field Day is I kept the name of the group that we used before when we did the 3-club group. And what that is I kept it to be, and I'll send this out to everybody. I sent this out for Summer Field Day. I'll do the same thing. I made it I always submitted them in alphabetical order. So I did Clearwater ARS / St. Petersburg ARC / Upper Pinellas ARC. And that's how I submitted it. If you want to submit it for Spark alone, I would say put St. Petersburg ARC, but everybody has to agree on it. We're going to spell it that way. We're not going to put Spark or St. Pete or something like that. We're going to spell it exactly the same way. That's the important thing, because it's just a parsing. They parse it. Excuse me. Hold on one second. Sorry. As they parse it, they're going to aggregate it based on those and your club score, and they'll do a database select and say, okay, show me the unique, do a summary of all the scores and group by club name, and the club names will be different, and they will, or if the club names are different, then the St. Pete ARC is going to be put into a different bucket than St. Petersburg ARC. Same thing with if we do it with somebody spells out Upper Pinellas Amateur Radio Club and somebody sends Upper Pinellas ARC, those are going to end up being two different things. So the important thing is to everybody get together and make sure what we're going to do. So I will send out an email and probably next week to remind everybody, because this is part of your part of your not operating. This is once you put your log together after operating. Saying, okay, these are some of the recommended names. If you want to do it that way, everybody's on the same page, and that it gets aggregated the same. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. One other thing. Oh yeah, there is one other thing. Depending upon what software you end up using, and again, we'll talk about software here shortly. But depending upon which software you end up using, if you do use N1MM, you're going to have to and you make any digital contacts, you're going to have to manually go into your Cabrillo file and do a search and replace to change DG, which is the standard Cabrillo name for digital, to DI, which is what, for some unknown reason, I think they just didn't know what it really was in Cabrillo. They selected, this is the Winter Field Day folks, selected DI as digital. So if you send in your logs with DG, I suspect they'll parse them now, because I did let the people know, the people who run this thing, that hey, DG is the valid name, and they got kind of bent out of shape when I suggested that, saying it's not an ARL event. It's like I didn't suggest it was an ARL event. You just should be standard in your Cabrillo. So anyway, for whatever reason, if you do digital contacts, you're going to have to change it out to go in N1MM. You're going to have to go in and change the DGs to DIs. And N3FJP and TR4W both handle that properly, but N1MM doesn't, because it's not a built-in contest for N1MM. If you have to do it to what's called a user-defined contest, which I'm actually going to show how to do. It's kind of maddening. It's a little difficult, but not terribly difficult. But there's a few hoops you got to jump through to get N1MM to work with this contest. So I think that's pretty much it. And then again, they have a pretty good write-up of what I just said here in the rules, and COVID-19 changes, and about make sure the name is unique. So that's pretty much saying the same thing. And then just like with other contests, you post it. You have, I think it's not the typical 5 days. I forget when the deadline is, but I would do it within 2 weeks. I think it's a month, but I forget when they actually have the deadline. I don't think they would put the deadline in here. I don't actually see the deadline. Before the deadline posted above. I'm sorry, my mistake. Let's see. Okay, March 1st. So March 1st is the deadline. So you have a month, or a little. Yeah, you have a month. So to get the stuff all together.
Tom, and that is UTC time there.
Yeah.
So you go try to do it on 1st of March there, you'll already be late.
Agreed. So it's 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. The deadline is 7 o'clock on February 28th. So that's the deadline. All right. And then you email it to wfda@winterfieldday.com. But again, follow the rule. That's always the best thing to do when you're putting these things together, is read the rules, make sure you got everything right. And if there's enough people have questions, we'll do another one of these. But in preparing the thing, and I think I did that last year, I actually submitted it. And again, that was only because my thought was that there's only a handful of us that actually have put together the submissions for these things, because we do it as a club. So a lot of people aren't familiar with how to do that. So that's why we sort of go over this, because a lot of things people just go and operate, and they don't really have to deal with some of this stuff, And so it just helps to see how it's done. Doing that myself. Okay, so I think right. So if you do go outside, or if you're going to do a more classic operating, I would probably take a look at read this even closer, especially if you're getting into things like non-commercial power, if that's relevant. If you're operating outside on a generator, those things are important. So it tells you how you're recharging things. So by all means, read through those. I'm not going to read through the whole thing here. Power levels are, well, you see what they say. If you want to do QRP, that's fine. And then they go into a lot more scenarios of what's outdoor and things like that. So again, if you're home, you're home. Let's see. I think okay. So this is, if you're interested, this is the FT8 thing. Their point was that Winter Field Day has always had an emergency communications emphasis. Back when SPAR, which was the group that first started it, the new Winter Field Day, or the Winter Field Day doesn't FT8 doesn't allow you to send free-form messages unless you're using JS8 call. So you couldn't really send an emergency message. Other modes you can. That's why they say you can't send the exchange out without a lookup table. So he said when FT8 can do the Winter Field Day exchange verbatim, it'll become part of Winter Field Day. They're not anti-FT8, and I agree with that. The ARL didn't change any rules; just FT8 developers added the ability to do the exchange, the sections and the exchanges, and they added that ability to do essentially a lookup table in FT8. And there's just no more room in the protocol to do the extra I, O, and H categories the way they do it. So I've looked, and I've also asked the developers, but we sort of came to the same consensus: there's just not enough room in the bits to do it, because they just use bit fields to represent whether it's A, B, C, D, E, or F in summer field day. So anyway, little technical details of the protocol. But so that's, again, read the rules by all means. winterfieldday.com. Go up to the rules, read that. It's very important to read the rules and know. For example, it still starts at 2 p.m. So it starts at the same local time as summer field day, but the UTC time is different because it's 1900, because we're not in daylight savings time right now. So that's the thing. Don't get confused by that. The 2 p.m. sometimes I've made the mistake myself thinking, oh yeah, it's 1800, but no, it's not, and we shift it, but no, it's 2 p.m. The local time is always the same, so it's always 2 p.m. here in the East Coast. And let's see, same thing with the dates start 30th and 31st. So January 30th, 31st, that weekend is Winter Field Day. All right, so if there are no more questions about, or aren't any questions about that, let's go to, let me see if they talk about logging. I don't remember if they actually talk about, yeah, they don't really mention logging. So I will tell you, if anybody uses N3FJP, he has a module for Winter Field Day. If anybody uses TR4W, TR4W supports Winter Field Day directly, so there's no special things you need to do. N1MM, it's what's called a user-defined contest. I guess the theory is that there's lots of contests that the developers don't want to add each individual one. So N1MM has the ability to define user-defined contests. And that does work. There's some negative issues with that concerning error checking, things like, is someone going to type in the wrong exchange or 10 instead of 10 or things like that. N1M will let you do that, as I'll show you, but the other ones will not. They'll sort of do the edit checking. I can show you. Let me bring up my radio here. And let's see, let's go into here. Now, give me a second, I need to bring this up. Let's see. I use a program called Win for K3 Suite, which talks to is the one that talks to my radio. So that's where my radio is sitting right now. And then he also has one of these for ICOM and Yaesu, by the way. And then I have my other logging programs talk to this and it basically has other virtual COM ports it creates. So I have those programs talk to this. You can have the other program talk directly as well. That's fine. But anyway, just so I'm talking to this program. So I'm going to put this over here. And then I'm going to show this is TR4W. If you want this, you want to try this one, you can go to TR4W.net. And you can say download release. Open. And that is expected. We don't have the publisher certificate you have to buy every year because we're free software, so we don't do that. Where do we want to install the program? Just pick. It'll come up with program files. I usually change it to radio or something like that, so it's not in the program files directory. There's some weird things with how Windows treats things to try to write to the programs file directory. So it's easier to put it in something like radio or put it on your D drive or something other than program files. And that's it. And now I'm going to run TR4W. So if you go in here, you'll see ARL field day, but you don't want that one. You want to go down and select winter field day in the embedded contests. And my class is going to be 1.0. And section is going to be WCF. And I'm going to be assisted probably. Mixed. This is just for the Cabrillo stuff. You can do it later. I'm going to be low power. Hey, it actually might be fun to do it with the amplifier. I'll have to decide about that. This is something different. And OK. And I've already run TR4W on my computer, so it already knew about where to find my radio. But if you're doing this the first time, you go under CAT and CW keying under the settings menu, select radio, and you'll see here that it's, in my case, it's the K3. You can just go select your radio from this big list and then select your serial port. In my case, the virtual one is COM15. And you just select the drop down of it goes up to 20. So keep it under 20, you're good. And then this is typically your baud rate. And then I name the radio K3, all right? So again, you only have to do that once. That's why I didn't have to do it when I first came up. And it could already, you see here, it talks to the radio. And here I'm turning the VFO knob. So you see the VFO, you see the frequency changing. And right now it's in digital mode. So I'm going to go ahead and change to CW, and it changes to 40 CW. Oh, we have more. Hold on. I think someone's waiting to get in here. Oh, somebody put something in chat. Oh, yeah, there you go. TR4W is much easier to set up as compared to N1M. Yeah, that's an understatement, especially for FT8. But we can't use FT8 here, but you do any FT8 contests, it's much easier to use TR4W to do that. And I say that as one of the authors of the program. So it's open source, so it's on GitHub, but we don't get paid for that. It's just a fun program to work on and add things to. Anyway. The important thing is, and this is the thing that makes this a big deal, is if I work W1AW. Oh, geez, I gotta stop it from sending here. That's all right. So I work W1AW. And let's say they're operating at the station. So let's say they are 3I, right, for indoor, Connecticut, right? I work them, great. And let's say I work K3LR, who's 6, I'll call it 6 inside. And, oh, actually, I'm going to put, you know what? I'm in a habit. I'm going to put A. I'm going to say WPA. Winter field day class must be HI or O. You see that little edit that it did for you? That N1MM doesn't do. It will let you type in the 6A. Again, it's because it's a limitation of the user-defined contest. I made a suggestion on how to do that. They didn't accept. They said they weren't going to add that, unfortunately. But I wish they put it as an internal program. There's enough people that use it, but they opted not to do that. I asked them to do that, but they opted not to do that. You can't do the 6A, so I have to be 6, and then I have to be. Let's see, it's Western Pennsylvania, right? Or West PA, right? No, improper domestic UTH. And what you can do here is, if you want, you can have your list of multipliers. So this is my list of sections, and I can see, oh, Western Pennsylvania is WPA. WPA, great. Now you see WPA. That's it, easy peasy. If you operate phone, you want to operate CW. If you have a K3 or a Kenwood radio, a newer Kenwood or a newer ICOM radio, it will automatically, if you're a CW operator, it will automatically send CW over the serial port. You don't need any other interfaces. You don't need a WIN key or anything like that. It will, you all set. Now, if you operate with this one, PSK, PSK is not integrated into this program. You can do that if N1MM does that a little better. Well, a lot better since it's not here. So what I do is I operate this and then I go over to N1M. I just keep a log in PSK because the dupes, I'm not operating multiple digital modes, and besides, it doesn't matter. I can operate somebody one time on digital, so I just keep it in when I run the PSK program, I just keep track of who I've worked before over in that program. And then I just import that log into this log at the end. And that works for me. If it was a case of we were changing bands or changing computers, it gets a little more complicated. But in that case, it's if you're just running it from one computer, one station, it's really not a factor. Heck, for that matter, if you use DX Labs or your regular logging program, you could probably just log and keep track of which ones. Those don't typically do dupe checking, so that's the one issue you might get into. And then notice I'm going to change bands here, and this is the other nice feature. I'm going to change bands to 20. I'm going to go to well, here, you know what? Let's change bands instead to 15. And my radio just changed to 21020 because I typed in the frequency there. And let's change the mode to, I'm sorry, what did I do here? Oh, sorry, I did something wrong there, hold on. There we go. So I'm 21300, that's not gonna work, 020. There you go. So now I wanna work W1AW. I'm working them on a different band, but their exchange isn't going to change. And since we worked them before, it knows to pull in the previous exchange. What I do in that situation, and this at home, it's not going to be as much of a problem, but it can be. Sometimes you copied something wrong and you realize, oh, it's different. Is what I used to do is if I saw that, hey, later on in the contest, they're really telling me no, we're 2I Connecticut. I would go ahead and update this. Unfortunately, and if it's just me, that's fine. In a group environment or in other environments, I've seen, oh, I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. Unfortunately, I have since found out that there are some people who don't understand the rules that Once you pick a class, that's it the whole time. And if you decide later on, I'm not going to run those other transmitters, great, you keep the same one. Once you start, that's what you keep. So if you decided to go outside, I mean, if you decided to start indoors and then say, oh heck, or outside and then say heck with this and go into the house and operate, I guess, yeah, that's the exception. And then, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do in that situation. But the problem is people will later on, you know, what if somebody decided to do that and instead they end up being 3H CT? I guess that, you know, whatever you send them is what you do. So the important thing is log what they tell you. Don't just log what's there. But the lesson is don't assume what was logged earlier is wrong, because somebody could not know and they could go change their class. I found out that happens. People do that. I think the group that used to go down to Fort DeSoto last year changed that. I think they had that situation and they changed it. And we were explaining no, keep the same one, but because people look at the logs and go, hey, wait a minute, we have a mismatch here, and that's I actually have a little program that searches the log to see if there's any mismatches like that. And when you find them, and then you got to see if you can figure out what to do. But essentially nothing, because you don't really know which one was right.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, sir.
So question about, you know, if you're operating PSK31, could you just switch TR4W into digital and just manually log as you're going in PSK31?
Sure, absolutely right. Yes, you could do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
you could certainly do that. Yeah, and in PSK you have enough time to do that. Yeah, that would be perfectly fine. So if I just change them, yeah, I mean it's gonna pick up the radio here. I just put myself back in the digital. It's gonna pick that up, and yeah, by all means I could do that, and because I'm not actually connected to, I don't have any other digital programs running right now. But if I worked W4UB, who is 1H WCF, it's gonna log that just fine. Yeah, so absolutely right. Yeah, it's a good suggestion. Everybody get that? So if you're operating another program, by all means, you can just keep this up and running and go ahead and log them, and that will work just fine. You can go ahead and type it in there if you want. Or later on, and this is the other thing you can do later on, you can go in here and say import. If you get an ADIF file out of the wherever you're logging, you can go and say import ADIF, and it'll just read the ADIF file and log the contacts that way as well. That, I'll say it this way, that will probably work okay. The reason I say probably is because there's no real standard. Well, there is a standard, but I can't guarantee whatever digital program you're using is doing it, or where you put the exchange. So that may or may not work. If you have any issues with that, let me know. With importing, let me know if you do that, and or with any, no matter which program you're doing. And then, because there's some, you might need to, there might be a little fix up you need to do to import it into, whether it's N1MM or TR4W or N3FJP or something. So it's a question of how does the program know what the exchange was, because it has to put that in the file. And then when I'm all done, when I want to go ahead and say, oh here, as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and make a digital. Oh, I already did make a digital contact, so let me go ahead and make a phone contact too, just so I can show you this. We'll do each program completely, and then we'll be done with it. N4KIN 1HWCF. So I made a phone contact, and then in the end, I'm just going to go here to export Cabrillo. This is where I'll put in my information. You see it kept some of that information I did before. And this is where I'm going to put, I would typically have the operators. No, this is where I would do ARC. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I knew there was something wrong with that. That's how I do it. It's just because we used to do 3. And the location is WCF on Cabrillo files. whenever you see a Cabrillo file with location, it means the ARL section. That's what it wants in there. And then I don't need to put on the address, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just want to show you what it looks like. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my mistake. I got this thing didn't know. Yeah, it assumed that in this case it assumed that digital was ready because it didn't actually have a real contact. So yeah, this program assumes the digital is ready. If it was a FT8 in an FT8, obviously FT8 doesn't apply here. That's what I was thinking. In FT8, we know the difference, but it didn't know it was actually PSK31. I'm going to fix that though, just for fun here. Now it should do it. Yeah, there it is. So, you wouldn't necessarily do that, but if you import the file and it has the mode as PSK31, then it would handle it right. It's just because the program didn't know, because the way I entered it, when I just entered it by hand, the program didn't know it was not ready. It assumes digital is ready unless it knows otherwise. The problem is though, and actually I think I just discovered a bug here. Let's check this. So in RTTY, I handled it for that RTTY as in ready. So I'm going to make myself a little note. I did that for the other modes, for the other digital modes, but not the RTTY. So I need to fix that for make sure ready exports as DI as well. So I'll fix that. Anyway, back to this, and then I think we're done with this one. Then we'll show you how to do another one. So this is, and you'll see a lot of that. You can go manually edit this file if you want, but the information's in here on who I worked and whatnot. And this is the file that gets sent. Now I couldn't just send this file as is. I need to go, if I worked with satellite contact, back in the rules where it says to go ahead and enter. See here where it says enter. You see there. You look at their sample. You see where it says, there you go, set this one right here. But you can manually edit, and that's what's intended. You go manually edit the, oh, I guess it didn't copy. Oh, I know what's going on here, I'm sorry. That's what's going on. There it is right there. You know, with whomever I worked. I will put that in there as a soapbox, as a comment. Again, read the rules, soapbox, 1,500 points for satellite QSO, because that's literally how they want it to show up. So if you do any of these other ones, again, that's literally how they want it. So again, I think it would be worthwhile. We'd probably do one of these before people submit their, sometime in the middle of February, just so people can get this stuff all together if they have any questions. And it's good to submit your log. It's good for to help some cross-check. Now, by the way, unlike ARL field day, which is not what we call adjudicated, most contests are when you send in a log, they cross-check the logs. So if I say I work W1AW at 1531 on 116, they will go check. They cross-check W1AW's log to make sure they worked NY4I at 1531 or sometime close to that, in case the clock is slightly off. They cross-check that and they'll take away points. Summer field day does not do that level of log checking at all. So whatever you say is what you get. That's why I don't pay much attention to the scores and the high scores in winter field or in summer field day, because any errors in the logs are, you know, what you say is what you get. So if you send in a log with 100 dupes in it, it would still be, you know, and claim credit for them, it would still, you get credit for it. So that's not really the way you typically do that. But anyway, so okay, that's the end of that. And cancel that. And then I'm done with this. And the last thing I want to show you, yes, I'm going to exit the program. When I start it again, You see this big button here that says latest config file is winter field day. Just click that big button when you come back into the program, and it'll get right back to where it was. All right. Tons more stuff in this program, especially if you're a CW operator on single operator 2 radio and multiple radios, and there's lots more features in this program. But this is basically what it does. And there's other windows in here if you want to look at like radio, my radio, and the DX cluster. You can talk to the DX cluster and bring up a window and pick a particular cluster you want to talk to. So it does all that type of stuff as well. Band maps and whatnot. So anyway, this wasn't supposed to be an overview of TR4W, but I just want to show this as one option. I don't have the N3FJP software, so I can't show that. Now, the next one is the fun one, sort of kiddingly. If you don't have another, so here's what I'm going to say. If you don't even have a contest program on your computer, your two choices are, well, you can get one in N1MM. There's a little bit of a learning curve to it. I suggest you learn it because if you go to any other station, if you go down to Spark, once we can contest again, it will be using N1MM. And the reason that with Summer Field Day, the one we've done the group together, for some reason we've used N1MM. And I think because the theory was there were more people around who knew how to fix it if there was a problem. That's a bit of a weak argument, but such as it is. But I think for the learning curve to compare new people operating it doesn't outweigh that. So it's good to learn N1MM, at least how to basically use it. But if you're new and you've never put a contest program on your computer, I would suggest you either go get the N3FJP program or go download TR4W and do it with that way. It's going to be the easiest to get you up and running. Again, the editing, doing the edits and keeping track of what's what and or what's the right exchanges are is that feature alone to me is worth it. But N3FJP makes a very fine piece of software if you're just operating at one station at home. There's nothing wrong with their software at all for that type of limited use. When you get into networking, it sort of breaks down a little bit, but in reliability, but otherwise it's fine. And they have nice displays and things like that. So it's just perfectly fine program for that. And TR4W does a great job, pretty simple to use. N1MM does, I already have an N1M on my system, excuse me. So the download should be exiting the program here. It does its own uploads. There you go. And it should run it again. It'll do the installation. I'll go to their website here in a second and show you what it shows you what was changed. They do releases every week in N1MM. Yeah, so I guess it's good that they do releases quick. I'm going to reserve comment on that. I'm biased. All right, so where you start though, if you really decide I want to go down that road, great. But even if you're an existing N1MM user, you're going to have to get the user-defined contest. So you can always find that by doing N1MM logger. I use DuckDuckGo, but Google would show that as my search engine, but Google would probably show the same thing. You go to downloads, program files, full install. And look at that. It'll tell you to download the full install. Click here. You download the latest full installer, and then the program will run and tell you there's an update. And yes, you do want to install the update. So every release, they don't go update the full release, the full install. They always have a patch, essentially, that you go download the latest release. but you only need the latest or the last update. So you can do the full install. Then when you run the program, just like you saw, it'll tell me there's an update. You can go download it. And that's all you need to do. Click here, it'll download it, and then you can go over here and just click on this file, and ultimately you'll get to where you can download the file. But notice that's June 25th, 2020. And then when you run it, it'll say, hey, there's an update. Do you want to download it? And tell it, yes, you do. And it'll take care of getting itself updated. All right. If you're an existing N1MM user, you are still going to have to do the following. Let me find it here. Go to Downloads, Category Menu, User-Defined Contest. So Downloads, Category Menu. Oh, geez, this is a little maddening. You're going to be careful when you scroll over. User-Defined Contests. And if you look here, you can search for, I think you can search for WFDA. There it is. Notice right out of the gate, they're telling you section check only. It doesn't check the other, doesn't check. So what you do is you download this file. So I'm gonna say, if you want to use N1MM in this contest, you really gotta want it. There's a few hoops here. WFDA, open this file. Let me pull this over here. You'll see there's a couple of things in here, but most importantly, read the README. Place in users area at N1MM My Documents. That's going to be whatever you're going to go. It's a subfolder off of My Documents. N1MM Logger User Defined Contents. And I've actually not done that on this computer, so I'm going to do this right now. But you have to go, and so I have to take this file, which is the WFD, and yes, we do know it says RIDI, even if you aren't operating RIDI, WFDA RIDI.udc. I have to copy the, let me extract the, hold on, let me extract all these first. So I have to take this file, so I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna go over here to Documents, N1MM Logger, and I'm gonna find user-defined, let's see, the instructions said, find user-defined contests. And they go in different directories, so make sure you put them in the right place. Okay. And then it says, go to get the winterfd.section. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put it in support files. I'm going to go up one here. Support files. I'm going to put that, I'm going to paste that into here. You see Winterfield Day Sec is there, okay? Now, and it also says after producing the Cabrillo file, use find, you guys still hear me? Okay, just checking. My audio changed in my ear. I thought the earpod or AirPods did something. It says after producing the Cabrillo file, find and replace RY to DI. So it reminds you to do that. When setting up, click import section. We'll show you that. So now I'm going to run. I'm going to shut down N1MM here. Right, and now I'm going to start up N1MM. And when I go into N1MM, again, if this is new to you, I go into N1MM, I say new. And in here somewhere should be the WFDA2 RIDI, the user-defined contest I just added. That should now be in the drop-down list, all right? And notice here it says class category state section DX. So it wants you to fill that in with the exchange. So it's going to be 1H WCF. All right. And I'm going to say import section list, and it imported the winter field day sections. So just follow those directions on the user-defined contests, and you'll be all set. So now I know, okay, so let me get into my, let me just get in this phone here. Oh, now I have to tell N1MM what radio to use. So what did I say it was? Port 15? So I have to go in here and I have to say configure ports. I'm on 15. Shoot, I don't really want to do that. Oh, I see what the issue is. All right, so here I want to be in phone. I'm on 40 phone right now. I don't know why it still shows this up at the top. I'm on sideband. No, I don't understand that one, but let's go ahead and enter that W1AW we did before. What did I say? I said 3I. It doesn't really matter. 3I, and I have to tab over. I think I can space too. So I think I can do 3I space. Yeah, I can do 3I space, and then Connecticut. I don't want to transmit a digital subband. I don't know why it thinks I'm digital right now. I'm not, but let me go ahead and show you the W4UB. I'm going to enter 1A WCF. And notice it logged it. That's what I was saying before. It doesn't do that edit check. If it's just you, that's not a problem. But when it's 25 different operators like we have at our joint event, that's a problem because people make mistakes, and I had quite a few of those I had to correct. So whenever we do this all together again, my vote's to use TR4W. I'm just saying that. Thanks, Jack. All right, and that's that process. And then when I want to generate Cabrillo file, I'm going to generate a file here, and I'm going to say NY. What I typically say NY4I. Yes, you can replace that. Edit, and you'll see the file. So it looks similar. I didn't have as many contacts, and I'll still go in here and change. This one I have to actually go change the club name myself. So I would have the Clearwater ARS / the rest of the stuff I put in. Oh, case is wrong here. Saint. Now again, I'm going to send something out so we determine, okay, are we doing Saint period or Saint or what? So we get this exactly right. ARC and then Upper Pinellas. That's what I put in, and that will fit, and that's what I put in. That's just fine. This is all electronic anyway, so there's not like it's going in a magazine. And you have to go ahead and cross-check the Cabrillo file and the rules to this Cabrillo file. The rules are always the right one, so you always want to make sure you look at this example and you make your Cabrillo file look exactly, obviously not their contacts, but make the Cabrillo file look like this one. So this is where I will put soapbox in here and fix things up. And this one, for example, I go change it to DI. For some reason, it thinks I'm digital. If I did have a RY digital contact in there, I'd change it to DI. All right, and then I'd save that and submit that log. And that would be it for N1MM. Oh, they did have a little warning here. Let me show this again. Let me show this one more time. You're single op assisted, and I can go fix that. And I'm going to tell it, yes, go ahead and save that. You see here, it does pop up a little special note to say add bonus points. Include note for the calculation in Soapbox. That's what the bonus, the Soapbox thing I added for like my contact. Search and replace ROI to DI. So it does give you some little instructions to how to prepare this Cabrillo file, but use the rules as your template. And that's it in N1MM. Again, not easy, but if you're an already existing N1MM user and you already have all your stations set up for that, then that would make sense to use N1M. You just have to go in and define the user-defined contest. Not too terrible. Just follow the directions. Start at the website on where to do that. Again, that was in Downloads, Category menu, User-defined contests. And you can look through here. These are all the user-defined contests. Or you can just search for WFDA, and you'll find the WFDA download, and that will get you these files. And then look at the README, and it will show you where to place these two files. All right. If you're not an N1MM user, I would not suggest this be the contest you start. There's tons of information on the internet on setting up these things, and this site has a lot. If you are using N1MM, this site has lots of good information on the program, on how to learn, how to use the program and getting started and whatnot. So documentation's first rate, program's first rate. It's good, fine program. Just has, like I say, the user-defined stuff is a little cumbersome, I'll say, but. It acknowledges that, hey, they can't have every log in there. So it's good that they do have that ability to define a custom contest externally that the authors didn't add to the program. But I think Winter Field Day is enough. I thought there was enough people using it that it would make sense to add it as an existing one. But anyway, any questions? No questions? All right. Remember the rules, to summarize. The rules, look in here, it says COVID-19 changes in red. The big changes, you can aggregate your score under the club name. I'll send out an email saying that the names where some of us are using. You can pick whatever you want. Even if you've operated with us at the Clearwater Fire Station, you're under no obligation. Excuse me, hold on a second. You're under no obligation to use our name. You want to just put your local club, whether it be UPark, Spark, or Cars, or some other club, or I know if you're a member of the Aardvarks Wireless for a contesting group, you want to do that, that's fine too. No one's under any obligation to put anything they don't want to put there. So if you're at home, your category is going to be 1H. And your section is going to be Whiskey Charlie Foxtrot, and you'll expect to have sections from other people, not states. So it's handy to have a list. I'd recommend if your contest program doesn't have a list, and you're just going to use this with your regular logger, go on the internet and search for ARL section list. You'll see it says contest sections list. And you can, along with their abbreviations, is available here. Maybe I'll send out a link to this as well. And then these are all the different sections you're going to get. Most of the country, the states are just, the section's just their state. But in the states with more hams, they break them up, like California is broken up into all these different sections. New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Washington, Florida, all broken up into other sections versus the whole state. So that's what you're going to expect. Generally, your contest program will have some sort of list you can look at, but if it doesn't, I suggest you print something out and have it there so you know when somebody says I'm in Pennsylvania, okay, are you in Eastern Pennsylvania or Western Pennsylvania? And do be prepared to say, well, I don't know. Say, well, hey, where are you? Sometimes you have to get down to that level. And if the person says, I don't know, and says, where are you? Hey, if it doesn't take you more than, honestly, if I was at home and it doesn't take me more than a minute, I'd say, well, tell me where you are. I'd actually go look it up for somebody here if I was at home, because it's like, you know, might as well help the guy. That way you're helping everybody else that works them later. And you know, you can say, well, hey, you're going to be Eastern Pennsylvania. You know, if he said I'm outside of Philadelphia, I said, well, you're going to be Eastern Pennsylvania. That way he'll know it for every time later. So no reason not to help somebody out if they truly don't know their section. That's fine. That happens. And if they don't know the exchange, well, I'm not really in the contest. I'm just operating from home. Great. You're going to be 1H. And let's say they say I'm in Missouri. I say, great. You're going to be 1H Missouri if you work anybody else. It's always a good thing to be helpful and get other people so they know what to say. You're helping everybody else that wants to work the guy later. All right. So if there are no other questions, I think we'll stop there. I do have a recording of this, and I will make it available. I'll send some out to all the club member mailing list that where the recording is, with a list of some of these links and also some of the names that we're going to use. And if you don't have any questions, we'll end there. I hope everybody gets on the air. Look forward to seeing everybody on January 31st and making contacts and Winter Field Day. So have fun.
Thank you for the presentation.
All right.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks,
You're
Tom.
welcome.